Alright, so welcome back to our Friday's Ask Properly Brothers series, and today we're going to talk about what should you do when you want to sell a tenanted property. Alright, so if you fall into the category whereby you want to sell one of your investment property but currently is being tenanted, what are some of the things that you should be doing in order to sell this property effectively? Now, based on our 13 years of experience in real estate, we know that a lot of home sellers actually face this dilemma when they want to sell their investment property. But of course, when we say that it's an investment residential property, especially, most of the time it's being tenanted. And sometimes in the current market where all the cooling measures are currently in place, if you find yourself selling off your tenanted property, you might be facing a little bit of roadblocks here and there. Now, why do I say that? Because importantly, before you sell your property, one of the key things we always advocate is to know and to determine who are the so-called prospective and possible target audience in terms of the buyer's pool. That means who is likely to buy your property. Just give you an example. If you own a property in the city fringe area and let's say it's a 2-bedroom, in the current climate, probably you might think that most of the buyers that are actually buying are really buying for own stay, and thereby if let's say if your tenancy is running for too long, for example it still has like 18 months to go, and a couple comes in and view the property, and eventually when they want to make an offer, after discussion they find that the 18 months wait is really too long and it sort of affects their plan for renovation, for getting married and stuff like that, then they might then forego the choice of offering for your place and then offer for a vacant unit instead. So another example is that let's say if you own a suburban property, a 3-bedroom, and the main target audience are HDB upgraders who are selling off their HDB and then buying a 3-bedroom condominium as an upgrade of lifestyle, and if your property is tenanted for another 12 months, then technically it will not suit the family as well, because the moment they sell off the HDB, they want to buy something that they can really move over immediately, commence renovation, settle the kids down in school and stuff like that. So likely this pool of target audience, they might be looking for a property that is doing a normal completion, selling vacant possession. So what are some of the things that you need to consider if you want to sell off your tenanted property? Now, number one, the very first thing is that look at your current tenancy and see that how much is a balanced lease. So for example, there's a balanced lease of between 3 to 5 months. Then you need to decide if let's say by the end of 3 to 5 months, the place is not sold, then what is your next step of action? Should you renew the tenancy, or should you look for a new tenant, or should you leave it vacant? Now, if you already have difficulty selling the place when it's being tenanted, then you might want to set a target. Now, why is it that sometimes it's a little bit difficult? Because of course, when you sell a tenanted property, you have to adhere to your tenant's schedule. And since you have rented it out, based on most tenancy agreements in Singapore, you need to make thorough appointments with your tenants. Also, it has to suit their timing, it has to suit their schedule before they can allow that viewing on the weekend or probably on weekdays and stuff like that. So sometimes in terms of arrangements, I would say that tenanted units will have this challenge of what we call a loss of viewing opportunity, and it's a little bit harder to match the buyer's timing with the tenant's availability. And of course, the second thing is that because it's being tenanted, it's a little bit harder to configure and calibrate the condition when the buyers walk into the place itself. So it's very hard for you to dress up the place because you need to respect your tenant's privacy. The tenants have their own lifestyle. It's a little bit hard for you to calibrate the actual condition of the place or the tidiness of the place, etc. and etc. So that being said, these are basically the three challenges. So number one, the timing that the buyers will have to wait should they buy a property with tenancy. So if there's a long way to go, the buyers might be put off and they might go for a vacant unit instead. Secondly, you find that there's a loss of opportunity for viewings. And of course, thirdly, it's a little bit harder to calibrate the viewing experience. So of course, that would then bring us to the factors for you to consider. Meaning, number one, if let's say you have difficulty selling the place with tenancy while it's being tenanted, then you might want to set a goal. For example, leave the property vacant for 3 months after your current tenancy finished, and during that 3 months, if let's say you really still cannot find a buyer, then probably after 3 months then you'll rent it out, because you probably will want to have the rental income to cover your mortgage and stuff like that. So set a target. It can be like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, determining on your core motivation of selling off the place. Second thing is that should you then want to renew your tenancy or you want to find a new tenant, probably you want to insert a flexi clause. All right, a flexi clause, for example, you can rent out for 1 year, but maybe maybe have a flexi exit clause that after a minimum stay period of, let's say, like 6 months, either party can give each other a 2 months notice. So that in the event if you sell your place, there is a flexi exit clause for you, it will then seem more attractive to your prospective buyers. So of course, number 3 thing is that if, let's say, you really want to exit from this property because you have other plans, you want to make other form of investments, then I think it will be definitely good in the current market sentiment because of cooling measures and stuff like that. Most of the buyers are actually buying for own stay. So really have to look at the target audience that will probably buy over your property. So if you are really sure that it's going to be somebody that is going to buy for own stay, then I think it'll be good to sell with vacant possession, go all in to really let the current tenancy finish, vacate the property, and then set it up for showings and dress up the place, do all your minor upgrades and stuff like that, and then go all in for selling. So the 3 challenges that we mentioned, and of course the 3 factors to take note when you're selling off your tenanted property. So we hope that this episode helps you. See you soon again in our next one. Cheers.